The Shark Deck.
I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Esquire Middle East spoke to Mark Normand about touring. Mark said, I just like to work, but I always forget about the little things, you know? People say, you want to do Nashville? I go, I'd love to do Nashville. I love Nashville. I love the club. I love comedy. But then you forget that it requires packing a bag, getting an Uber, going to the airport, flying there, landing, getting another Uber. I always forget about that part. I always say yes to everything, and then I realize, oh my God, I want to kill myself. I'm hungover, and now I'm in a baggage claim, and I want to vomit on the floor. But I still get to do the Nashville show. It's kind of like a lady. You're like, oh, I'd love to sleep with this lady. Then you realize you got to meet her parents and get married. And you have a kid, you know? You just want to kill yourself. All right, Mark, what do you do on a day off? I'd kill for a day off. Well, I actually like stand-up. I'd like to chill out all day. I'm a big walk guy. I think walking is highly underrated. So I'd walk around the city with a podcast going, maybe do a couple pull-ups on some scaffolding, have a nice lunch with the wife, and then write some jokes and do some comedy. Comedian Norman Freeman getting some pushback after posting videos of their character Obese Betty, in which Freeman performs in a fat suit. One of the videos shows Freeman struggling to get the fat suit into a pair of pants. Another shows the character eating, and a third clip shows them drinking alcohol. All three of the videos went viral. One has almost 5 million views. In a TikTok posted last week, plus-sized fashion influencer Munat Abdul says that she can't believe people are still making jokes like this about fat bodies. In her TikTok, she asks, was that fat suit really necessary? What year is this? Some of the commenters suggested that Abdul should lighten up. Others agreed that Freeman's video was hurtful. Omid Djalili was speaking to the Metro on a related note and said, we all need safe spaces, but we have to be very careful what we say with cancel culture, and there are a lot of people who come to be offended. They all want to go viral. They know there are cameras. In the live arena, we have to be a little bit careful what we say so we don't attract nutbags. But also in the live arena, anything can happen. Lots of stuff has happened in my career, and you have to sort of roll with it. It teaches you to live in the moment. But if comedians are feeling unsafe, that's something that should be addressed. Nate Bargatze was on Dave Ramsey's podcast and talked about how he knew when he made it. Nate said, I worked at Applebee's. In comedy, when I got to the point that I was making just as much as I'd be making at Applebee's, as someone who didn't go to college or anything, I was like, all right, I'm making just as much as I would make, 30 grand a year, whatever it is. And then you slowly have little check marks where you can be like, all right, I would have made more than this at whatever job I'd have. After the Netflix special was released, we took a pretty big leap where you go to theaters and the audience is there to see you. You got to have new material. You got to have all this new stuff. They're there to absolutely see you. He's still amazed at his success. He says, why would I get any of these awards? I don't think I deserve any of this stuff. It's wild and hard to take in. When it happens, it's pretty surreal. I've done stand-up for 20 years. It's all gradual. I always say you either make it at 20 or 40. No one makes it in the middle. So you either get lucky and get plucked, or you have to go out and grind it. The Guardian asked Dean Baptiste, who inspired you when you were first starting out. Dean said, the most inspirational comic for me when I started was Chris Rock. After seeing Bigger and Blacker, after that, I would say that the list is now endless, as I've been able to draw inspiration from all over, from Dave Chappelle to Catherine Ryan to David Mills to Sebastian Maniscalco. There's inspiration to be found anywhere. Any bugbears from the world of comedy? Dean said, I didn't like the point in comedy about 5 years ago where good comedy shows were measured by how many harrowing, tear-jerking stories they included. Comedy is supposed to be the endeavor of using humor to rationalize traumatic experiences. Also, nepotism. If art isn't meritocratic, then I don't see the point. Just make your rich kid get a job, please. Any pre-show rituals? Yeah, water and using the toilet. My body likes to cleanse itself before telling dirty jokes. Best heckle? I used to have a bit where I'd ask the audience what their last meal would be if they were on death row. One audience member replied, your penis. Suffice it to say, I had no comeback for that aggressively delivered compliment. The Hollywood Reporter spoke to Eric Appel about Weird, the Al Yankovic documentary. Appel had worked on the original 2010 Funny or Die fake trailer, which starred Aaron Paul as Al Yankovic. After years of hearing from fans they wanted a real movie, Al re-teamed with Appel to produce a full-length version. Appel says, this was one of 3 or 4 fake movie trailers that I made. My thinking back then was, if I can make these fake movie trailers that potentially fool people into thinking they're real movies they'd want to see, then maybe somebody will let me actually direct a real movie. I remember right after the trailer came out, emailing Aaron Paul and Olivia Wilde, and the three of us were like, this should be a real movie. I remember bringing it up to Al at the time and him kind of laughing it off as a joke. But when Al emailed me out of the blue in 2019, I've never responded to an email faster. The two of us got coffee the following morning, and I immediately started brainstorming ideas for a real movie. It was nice that we weren't actually telling the true story of Weird Al. I had to do zero research. I took what I knew from being a fan of Al's. I think why it's such a great partnership is because maybe he's a little more joke forward than I am. I direct mostly comedies, but I wanted to make sure that the movie has enough heart and the emotional beats were really earned. A good example is the Pablo Escobar sequence. In our very first meeting, Al said, "I'd love it if I became an action hero like John Wick in a Hawaiian shirt. Maybe I go up against Pablo Escobar." He had just finished all of Narcos. We had to figure out how to get Pablo Escobar in this crazy sequence. Al really wanted it to come out of the blue. It was my job to justify why. We had to plant a couple Pablo Escobar references in early. The audience will still never see it coming, but we had to know that Pablo Escobar exists in the world. At the end of the day, there's nothing in the movie that we didn't both agree should be in there. All right, been talking about fringe strife all week. Well, The Guardian kind of suggests the fringe is doing just fine. They write box office income is said to be back up to immediate pre-COVID levels when the fringe reached its zenith of bloat, and that's with programs significantly smaller than in 2019. Shows are selling, which tends to inoculate everyone involved, from artists, venues, agents, and the PR folks. Of course, the downsides haven't disappeared. A queer sketch group from the U.S. called Alphabet Soup are sequestered beneath a Second World War base in the absence of anything affordable above ground. One of them told an interviewer, "Staying at a nuclear bunker is crazy. Something long and traditional in American culture is fearing the Russians, and I don't wake a day without thinking of Putin." Maddie Smith is out on tour. You may know Maddie from MTV's Wild and Out. Originally from Buffalo, Maddie is known for her quick wit and cutting roasts. Maddie opens for Bert Kreischer and Theo Vaughn. You'll find her tonight in Philadelphia, then heading to Grand Rapids, Portland, and a bunch of other places. MaddieSmithComedy.com, and there you can stream and download her album, which has the wonderful title, Another Sexless Night in Queens. Been there. That's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. You laughed. See you tomorrow.